So, we've been back for a couple of days from our vacation upstate to see the solar eclipse, which was really cool. And we spent some time with family and we told them about the whole situation downstate. And when we got back, because we have the digital recorder that I mentioned in my last video, we offloaded like 12 gigs worth of audio. The nice thing about this is it splits up the audio files into 1 gig increments, so it's not just one 12 gig file. It's actually a series of 1 gig or smaller, depending on when it cuts off and goes to the next one. So that's nice. It typically cuts off after 12 hours and then rolls on into the next one. So we've been going through all of that audio and we ended up discovering a lot of things that I kind of wish I didn't know about. But it's bad. Like, the things that I've heard and witnessed myself before we went away was bad enough. But now it's gotten to the point where we have to go to the police. The things that are said in this recording are not only bizarre and not only show that this is the mind of a very sick person, but it shows somebody who is in desperate need for psychiatric attention. Like, badly. Badly, badly, badly. Some of the things in the audio recordings are very, very, very explicit details of a suicide plan. And there are other details of her wishing to harm herself. And not just that, but she wants to harm other people. Now, obviously, this is a very, very serious thing. We can't just go to the police and go, hey, this woman's cracked. We think she's going to hurt herself or hurt somebody else. And they go, oh, okay, we'll investigate. We wanted to have proof or evidence that she's a danger to herself and others. And we definitely have evidence that she is a danger to herself and other people. I went through and made transcripts of exactly what she was saying with different things. My wife was going through things and detailing, like, oh, she's doing this, and kind of talking about what she was saying. And then I went in back to those areas because we timestamped everything and actually wrote down what she was saying. And it is very, very disturbing. So the plan is we're going to call the non-emergency line for our local police, and we're going to explain the situation to them and see what we need to do in order to actually put in a report, because she is a danger not just to herself, but she is a danger to my wife and I. She is a danger to the neighbors. She's a danger to their kids. And before anybody goes, oh, do you really think that you would go and harm a child? Yes, I do. Because she talks about taking a knife to them, taking a gun to them. Mind you, she doesn't have a gun. And we procured the knife that she is seemingly obsessed with. Like, she brings it up multiple times a day. We've taken that knife and we've hidden it. She won't be able to find it. She expressed giddiness over the prospect of one of the kids being hit by a car. And that is deranged, to put it lightly. That is absolutely deranged. Like, this goes beyond the whole narcissism thing. You know, this goes beyond the whole bipolar thing and goes into something a lot deeper and more disturbing, because the entire time that we're going through this audio, it sounds like she's having conversations with people, and there was nobody else there. Nobody answers her, you know, aloud. She's literally talking like she's having an actual conversation, and she's responding to things that this other person or entity or whatever is saying. And that is a new level of everything. We're peeling back layers of this onion, and we didn't even know there were layers beyond, you know, the narcissistic traits and the unmedicated bipolar. This is going beyond that. I'm thinking she's having actual delusions, psychosis, something. She does have unmedicated bipolar disorder, and I have a feeling that when she's having her manic episodes, which she's manic a good portion of the time, that's when these things are kicking off. And the other thing that I've noticed is she repeats things in threes. Like, she'll say things like, oh, she didn't help me, she didn't help me, she didn't help me. Or, you know, she'll just randomly bring up something that one of the caretakers for the kids next door that she has this beef with, she'll say something like, she said it's just kids being kids, that they're just kids being kids, that they're kids being kids. And when I was listening to this, I had to pause, turn to my wife who was sitting next to me, and go, what the fuck? Because that is all I could muster as a reaction. So what happens from here? You know, outside of us going to the police, like, what happens after we go to the police? Because we sure as shit don't feel safe. This one thing that she said, nobody could make out exactly what she was saying because the TV is a constant in the background, and a lot of times it drowns out what she's saying. But I don't know if she was threatening to use a knife, that knife that I mentioned, against one of the neighbors, or if she was threatening to use it against my wife, because my end parent has this hatred towards my wife that she made very apparent in one dialogue, because she said, you know, things between me and I, meaning her, were fine, and then she meaning my wife, came along and put a wrench into things. Which, mind you, I'm an adult. If I want to end up in a relationship with somebody, I can damn well end up in a relationship with somebody. You know, I love my wife. She's the love of my life. I wouldn't have married her if I didn't see myself spending the rest of my life, her life, whoever's life. So for her to be saying that, you know, everything was fine, and then she came along. At one point, she refers to my wife as that fucking woman, which just enraged me to a degree that I have never been enraged before. There were no words for me to describe how angry I was at that comment. You know, everything was fine, and then that fucking woman showed up. Okay. But you didn't have problems with her until after you stopped taking your meds. And that's the other thing. She elected to stop taking her bipolar medication. When she told her doctor that, because I was sitting in with that appointment, her doctor's eyes went wider than I think I've ever seen anyone's eyes go. He was just shocked, just like, you stopped taking your lithium? And she went, yes, I did. And he was like, why would you do that? Oh, well, I feel fine now. I don't need it anymore. And he said, you know, my end parent's name, Egg, we'll use. Egg, you can't just stop taking your antipsychotics. That is a serious, serious thing. Really bad and dangerous things can happen from just suddenly stopping those medications. You know, you should be speaking to a psychiatrist who can help you wean off or change medications. And she was like, oh no, I don't need a psychiatrist. I don't need anyone. I'm fine. Clearly she's not, if she's having homicidal ideation and suicidal ideation. Things are not fine. She keeps pleading with God to kill her every single day, multiple times a day. She keeps going on and on and on about how much she wants to die. She also goes on and on and on about how much she wants to harm the neighbors and their children. And I feel like if you want to harm children, that means there is something fundamentally wrong with you, regardless of what other mental disorders you have. I feel like wanting to harm children, one who is as young as 6 years old, I feel like there's more than like an entire box worth of screws loose. There's an entire Home Depot's worth of hardware loose and in need of fixing. So we have all of this recorded. I have most of it transcribed, you know, the bits that prove that she's a danger to herself and others. And we're going to talk to the police and surrender everything that needs to be surrendered. And yeah. And the thing is, we initially did this because we wanted proof of her verbal abuse towards my wife. And this opened an entire Pandora's box that we had no idea even existed until we started playing things back. And it was made very apparent that this is a very deeply disturbed woman who needs help. Like, help. They probably, because they have to take all of this seriously, of course, they will probably end up taking her out of here and putting her under a mandatory psych hold because she has a suicide plan. She has notes written out. She read those notes out loud, by the way, so I know the contents of her suicide note, which is basically one is to me, the other is like some incident report about, you know, the kids fucking around on our property, as if I give a shit about that. It's addressed to me, and she says, "Oh, you were the best thing that ever happened to me. I love you so much. Make sure that you take care of the bills. The whole list is on, you know, wherever. Oh, and I did this because your wife didn't help me with one thing, and the neighbor's kids are terrorizing me." Even though they're not terrorizing her. They are literally just kids being kids. And I guess what she doesn't understand about kids being kids is that sometimes they do some really shitty, awful things. That's part of kids being kids. Kids do. I remember when I was 10, 11, 12, I did some really stupid shit, but I was a kid. I didn't know any better. And she's convinced that they're a gang, which I grew up with a river separating us from Newark, New Jersey. This gang of like 6 to 10-year-olds, I don't think would cut it in an actual gangland. But she will at the very least have a psych eval done, and she might not be coming home for a while, and that's fine because it means that she will get the help that she needs. APS might even need to be involved because clearly she cannot cut it on her own. And Ren and I are planning on moving upstate to be closer to family. So we're not going to be around to monitor her. And all of this has ended up accelerating the plans because my father-in-law, who I call Dad, he wants us up there like 10 weeks ago, honestly, but he especially wants us up there now with everything, and he doesn't even know the full story. He just knows that she's a shitty acting human being. So when he finds out, because after we go to the police, we give them everything, we make a report, and whatever happens after that happens, we're going to give him a call and tell him, you know, this is how deranged she is, and take it from there, I guess. I never thought in my life that I would have to do this. But, you know, this wasn't on my 2024 bingo card. But here we are. And of course, I have been keeping my brother, the one brother that I still talk to regularly, I have been keeping him abreast of this situation, and his reactions are basically, oh my god, what the fuck? And keep me posted because his younger sibling is in a seemingly dangerous situation, and he wants to make sure that I'm not dead, basically. He's also the brother who was with me the first time that she was having, bipolar episodes, mostly manic. Um, a lot of them would be mixed episodes, though, where she would be manic and depressed at the same time, which is the unholiest of combinations. So he has an idea of what I'm currently going through, and I have to keep telling him, no, no, it's worse. It is so much worse. It is like 1,000 times worse. And then I give him an example, and he's just like, holy shit. Why does she think she doesn't need help? I don't know. I'm not in her head, which might be a very scary place to be. Um, as somebody who has been suicidal and has attempted things in the past, um, it's it doesn't seem typical to me, and the way that her process went between like, oh, well, I can choose between option A and option B, and I can't do option A because, modern electronics. And then option B is, oh, I wonder how I can get in, a body of water or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, I, I don't know. It's, I don't know. No, suddenly I don't want to make this video anymore. Talking about all of this because the reality of everything is, it's scary. She says that she's scared and afraid of a bunch of like 8-year-olds or whatever who are doing nothing more than playing basketball outside, and she hates them doing that. And I'm more concerned about making sure that nobody gets hurt. And the fact that she keeps refusing help has put me in this position where this is the only thing that I can do to help her. And we're submitting everything anonymously because we fear for our safety. So she's not going to know that it was us. She's probably going to assume that it was the neighbors and that they have it out for her and whatever else. But she can think that, I guess. But um this whole thing is just making me really uncomfortable. And nobody likes talking to police, and I don't really want to talk to police unless I absolutely have to. But I fear for not just my life, not just my wife's life, but I fear for my neighbors, who are some of the nicest people. And that's the shame of it, is that these people are really, really nice, and all she's going on about is how they can't control their kids and they're just menaces, and they're gonna grow up to be in and out of jail. And she just makes all of these assumptions because she considers them beneath her. And I can't help but think that my grandmother, Egg's mother, who I love dearly, unfortunately she's deceased, but maybe in a way that's also a good thing, because then she can't watch her daughter descend into this madness, because she would not be happy. She would be wondering what she did wrong to end up with a child like that. And it kills me to think of my nan thinking that. So we'll see what happens. I will post an update regardless of what the outcome is, to document what the outcome ends up being, and we will take things from there. So